Yeah. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back. Okay, I've got two questions that have been raised, which I hope that I'll be able to sufficiently address with regards to the concerns um, expressed, by the industry, particularly those involved in the tourism industry. Now, the first one is HM240 Part 1. How does the tourism sector handle crisis management? Now, as you all know, since March 18, right, following the Malaysian government's lockdown, okay, many of the tourism stakeholders right now have simply no business because our borders were closed, right? There were mass restriction on people, the economy was at a standstill, etc. But now things have slowly begun to come back. Okay, but what has happened during that time was that hotels, entertainment outlets, restaurants, tourist attractions, places of worships, where people used to come in for religious tourism purposes, etc., were all shut. Okay, now during this 3 over months of crisis, that's impacted Malaysia, okay, on a scale that we've never seen before, right? Definitely, all the companies and all the businesses related to tourism, hospitality, etc., were just trying to survive. And one of the first thing they did was cut costs, reduce costs, look at unnecessary expenditure, right? And how they can actually help to retain the staff and the workforce. Of course, there were many drastic measures like salary cuts, reduction, what do you call that, pay freeze, etc. And most importantly, is the concept of WFH, work from home, okay, where traveling expenses, out-of-pocket expenses, electricity supply, water, and all the utilities were reduced, right, or even stopped. Okay, but then that will depend on the stakeholders, whether or not they were fast enough to implement these measures of austerity. Okay, so that will be part one of my talk about how did the tourism industry handle the crisis. Okay, the second was how severe is the effect of COVID-19 towards the hospitality industry. Now, I'm sure that all of you know right now that the severity was very much felt throughout the world. Right? Globally, you see America, Korea, you see what do you call that, China, and recently, the impact of it on the Brazilian as well as South American economy, which was bad. Now, many hotels will actually have to take temporary shutdown measures as well as stoppage in their operations, because when a hotel, even if a hotel does not have guests coming in, walk in, etc., or even in-house, okay, expenses are still running, right? Not the electricity supply has to go on, the outlets, etc. You cannot have a hotel operating when you switch off all the lights, so there's still expenses being incurred. Okay, and so the same when you talk about hospitality industry, we don't see just the hotels alone. You see entertainment, the music industry, food, and as well as all those ancillary suppliers to the trade, right? The roadside stalls, even the makcik who is selling coconut, who's selling the nasi goreng, the pakcik who is handling pancing, right now in their kawasan, like what do you call that, Tanjung Sepat, etc. Places that I've been to, So, and you and I also have been through with your families, etc. So, what does it mean? It was really severe, right? Okay, so now we are waiting for a revival. Okay, which goes down to the next question, which is HM2424A1 and 2. I will not talk about the perception and the thoughts of the customer and guests, because during that time there were no customers and there were no guests, simply because Malaysia, has practiced one of the best, in fact it is rated one of the best, I would say, country right now that's imposed very stringent conditions, to ensure that we will be able to lessen the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, as well as work towards reducing the and flattening the curve, okay, going forward. Okay, now What is more important I'd like to address here is, have you ever thought to change your career, switch jobs when the crisis began several months ago? Now, I have been in touch with many of my industry peers, right? Presidents of associations, attended many webinars, and at the same time given talks, on opportunities, after the crisis has lessened. Okay, I'm not saying when the crisis is totally lifted, because we do not know when it will become zero base. Okay, however, I've been even asked by my neighbors, I've been asked by my university colleagues, etc. What are my thoughts, about the opportunities right now, employment opportunities going forward. Now, ladies and gentlemen, personally, right now, I've gone through so many crises in the industry: SARS, MERS, Ebola, I would say financial crisis, to global recession, etc. Right? We don't have to go very far. Let's look at the external forces. Right now, look at the countries around Malaysia. Outside Malaysia, you have Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia, Korea, Taiwan, etc. We don't have to go very far. Okay. Now, in this ASEAN and Asia Pacific region, right now, tourism has been affected by the factors that I mentioned earlier. But tourism is a very resilient industry. Thailand, for example, they can come back within 2 weeks of any crisis, and everything is back to normal. In fact, everything becomes better when people say that, hey, let's go to Thailand because it's so exciting. They were not damaged by whatever crisis that has arose earlier. Okay, coming to Malaysia, we have got successive waves of issues, political or otherwise, and the economic factors, of course. But we have actually come back because our country is well managed. Now, the well managed part, it basically has to do with, I would say, the responsibility as well as the focus of the tourism stakeholders. Well, what does it mean? It means that the hospitality industry, right? We break it down into micro levels, not just a macro about hotels, theme parks, etc. We're talking about people in the streets, people who are trying to make a living. We're talking about even the convenience store. They also depend heavily on tourists. Right now, in Taiwan alone, you walk one street, you have got 25 hop-ins, hop-outs, and convenience store. The population, are they buying every day? No. They have successful wave of people, from tourists, domestically, right? And don't forget, tourism is not just about incoming foreign tourists. We're talking about the importance of domestic tourists. People from Penang, people from Kedah, people from Sabah, people from Johor, when they come to KL, people from KL, when they go to Kuantan, they go to Kota Baru, they go to Pahang, etc. These are domestic tourists. That's why the economy will be revived on the strength of our domestic consumption, and it's not just from foreign consumption alone. So, ladies and gentlemen, without going into much detail, all I want to say is, if you are pursuing or you have pursued a career in tourism, okay, my take with you all this is, believe you me, it is a resilient industry. People like me have stayed on for so long, right now, and now what I'm doing is giving back to the industry, right now, being very passionate about the industry, the hospitality industry, and there are many things that we will be embracing. We have to embrace, for example, digital transformation. Right? In the old days, when people talk about how businesses are disrupted by digital technology and etc., now we are actually embracing digital technology. Right now, even people like Grab, right? They don't own cars. Okay, and it's a ride-sharing economy. Airbnb. Okay, no doubt some of you may be frightened to say that, hey, we are in the hospital industry, why are you talking about Airbnb? They don't own properties, right? Airlines, in the old days, nobody talked about low-cost carriers. But low-cost carriers are not a competition to the legacy carriers, right? They are actually complementing the industry because the demand is there, right? The legacy carriers, like, for example, Malaysian Airlines system, Singapore Airlines, Thai Airways, they are not able to cater to the growing demand of a new travel segment. And what's a new travel segment, ladies and gentlemen? You and I, the millennials, as well as the Generation Z. All these travelers have different demands, okay? And it is up to us to look at the lifestyle. We must be empathetic. We have to put ourselves in their shoes so that we will be able to understand, right now, their requirements going forward. Okay, it's no longer like before, right? I won't go into detail, but what is more important is look at the content of a travel itinerary, right now. Is it more of shopping? Is it more of food, entertainment, lifestyle, etc.? So these are the things that will be posing a challenge to us. How do we cater to these new requirements? And more importantly of all is understanding, because you and I are consumers ourselves. We travel, we have expectations, we have our families who like to go for traveling, holiday and vacations with us. So, ladies and gentlemen, look at it in the context of the opportunities. Do not look at it in the context of what the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the industry. Because in the history of the world today, right now, the accumulation of all those disasters I've managed that I've mentioned earlier on, right now, were not able to destroy the industry. So the pandemic, okay, as a result of COVID-19, in my opinion, it will come, it will go, it will not stay. Right? That is the definition of the next normal, ladies and gentlemen. We are no longer talking about the new normal, right? Because the next normal would be the future of travel and the demand and the expectations of the new breed of travelers. So if you look at the context, ladies and gentlemen, right now, and how to cater to this sort of demand, then you will be able to find opportunity, right now, in the gig economy. Right now, you could become a supplier yourself. You could be a professional entrepreneur. Working with organizations to improve the travel lifestyle of people. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I do. You do a lot of research. You can go online. Mr. Google is a very good friend of mine, and so is yours. So don't overlook him, right? And think very carefully about your approach. In your dedication to this industry. Right. Thank you very much.